of Africa, live from here the headquarters of the African Union. Now the 46th extraordinary session of the 46th organization of the Executive Council of the African Union is actually happening right now here in the headquarters of the African Union. We brought you now a guest. She's a journalist from South Africa. So, what's your name and which organization you are working for?
My name is Ziyanda Ngobo, and I am a politics journalist from South Africa. The media organization I work for is Newsroom Africa.
Yeah, so as I told you, the Pulse of Africa is a new media organization, So previously we were talking about the lack of continental media organization, which is actually tell the truth of Africa in terms of politics, social, and as other aspects of the life. So how do you describe the need of continental media for the African and its people?
I think continental media is extremely important. It's important that we take control of the narrative of the African continent. The days of, Africa being viewed as a dark continent of despair and violence has to be turned around. But at the same time, I think it's also important for African leaders to also, make sure that their countries allow for such a narrative, a positive narrative to be portrayed. And what we're seeing with the various conflicts across the continent, it's very difficult then to speak about the positive of Africa when there's still so much conflict, there's still so much violence, and African leaders need to come together, put their heads around the table and try and resolve these conflicts. Otherwise, if we don't save ourselves, we'll find ourselves again, being subjects of other people's agendas.
Yeah, of course, there are some responsibility when it comes to the African leaders, but when it comes to the narration about Africa is negative, it's not right, as we know. So how do you describe the need of continental media, which can tell the truth of Africans' truths to the world?
It's very important for, media houses to tell the African story the way it actually is and not through the lens of the West or any other imperialist kind of force. And having continental media is crucial. I just wish we had more funding because it's very difficult. There are a lot of people, journalists, who are leaving the media space because of the difficulties that we find across the continent, even across the world, when it comes to resources and funding of media organizations. But continental media is critical. One, like I said, to take control of, the African narrative, but also to ensure that even those who come after us are able, to ensure that they are told the true story of Africa and make informed decisions.
So how do you look at the Ethiopian government initiatives? As I told you, the Pulse of Africa is a newly established media organization, to cover the issue of Africa and to somehow restructure the narration regarding Africa. So how do you gauge Ethiopian initiative in this regard?
I think it's important what the Ethiopian government is doing, ensuring that there's also a lot of access given to other media houses so that we're also able to spread the message across the continent and that it's not isolated in certain regions.
So maybe is it for the first time that you come to here to report the African Union? So what's your impression about Africa, the African Union as well as the capital city of Africa, Addis Ababa?
I think, it's quite impressive being here at the African Union headquarters, just watching how things are organized in terms of the topics, whether you're dealing with peace and security, whether you're dealing with the election of the commissioners, and of course we're still going to have the election of the AU Commission chairperson. I think it's important for us to continue shining the light on things that African countries are doing and ensuring that messaging, is accurate. And so being in Addis has been quite remarkable. It's also different to what you would have, maybe if you don't live here or if you've never been here, to what you would have seen being reported on the country.
So how do you look at, maybe the development of Addis Ababa? What was your expectation before you came to here and then what you find here? Could you draw some kind of parallel between what you expect and what you actually see in reality?
Well, I don't think I had a particular expectation, just simply because I know that when you travel across the continent, you may be told one thing, but then when you arrive, it's a completely different experience altogether. The people might be completely different. The infrastructure development might be more developed than you anticipated. The way things are done may not be what typical Google search will show you. So I think those are just some of the things that I've noticed almost immediately.
So my final question, you have tried to touch upon some of the points of discussion for the Executive Council as well as the Assembly of the Head of States. I mean, what's your expectation about this summit? I mean, there are different kind of challenges that Africa is facing, ranging from the peace and security, the economic integration, and many other things. What do you expect from the summit? What will be the outcome of the summit as well?
I think, firstly, the topic that they're exploring is very important about reparatory justice and racial healing because of our colonial apartheid imperialist history across the continent. We've all experienced this in one form or the other. So that, for me, is an important topic. But even more so, when you look at what's happening across the world, you have Donald Trump now, who is in the U.S. He's cutting funding. So what I expect is for African leaders to unite. And I know we've been saying this for decades, but if you look at the story of the founding fathers of what was the OAU, which then became the AU, that was the vision. And I think now is the time for that vision to be realized when it comes to, if you think about the COVID-19 pandemic, where we manufacture our own medicines. Let's really push on infrastructure development. Let's look at which regions have the strongest aspect and hone in on that. We've got an African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Let's operationalize it finally, in various sectors. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, and ensuring that people out there don't believe it's just another talk shop where leaders just come and they talk and talk and talk and then nothing gets done.
Thank you very much, Inde, for your opinion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Viewers, you are watching live from the headquarters of the African Union. Still, the 46th Executive Council of the African Union is actually happening here, so don't go anywhere, be with us. Thank you very much.